Ethan's revenge. I came home to find my wife standing in the kitchen, glowing. Not the kind of glow that comes from love or excitement. No, this was different. It was the smug glow of someone who thinks they've won. She'd refused to touch me for almost 8 months. No explanations. No arguments. Just cold silence between the sheets and fake smiles in public. Then one night, out of nowhere, she sat on the couch, curled her legs beneath her, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "I've been thinking, maybe we should try for a baby." That's when everything clicked. I'm Jake, 37. I run logistics for a defense contractor just outside of Denver. Structured, disciplined, detail-oriented. Before all this, I thought I had a solid life. Married 6 years. No kids, by mutual agreement. Or at least, that's what I thought. Her name's Emily, 35. Marketing manager for a mid-sized tech startup. Clever, social, persuasive. Too persuasive, in hindsight. We met through friends, got married fast. Everyone said we were the perfect match. Calm meets charisma. But in year 5, things started shifting. Subtle at first. The gym after work turned into happy hour with coworkers. Her phone started staying face down. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Then came the withdrawal. Not just physically, emotionally too. Like she was clocking out of the relationship one small piece at a time. I tried to talk to her. She brushed it off. Just tired. Work's been crazy. It's not you. I didn't press. I'm not the kind of man who begs for affection. I observe. I collect. I adapt. But that night, when she said she wanted a baby, I didn't smile. I didn't question her. I just nodded slowly and said, "Sure. Let's talk about it soon." Because I already knew the truth. 3 weeks earlier, I'd noticed something strange in the bathroom. A receipt for prenatal vitamins. Stuffed into the bottom of the trash, wrapped in tissue, but not hidden well enough. A week after that, a Target bag in the back of her closet, pregnancy tests, unboxed. One was missing. She hadn't come to me to make a baby. She'd come to frame one. That night, I opened a new folder on my laptop. Titled it Emily. I began logging everything. Timestamps, receipts, patterns. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was planning. Because if she thought she could manipulate me into raising another man's child, she didn't know who she was married to. I didn't need confrontation. I needed proof. And when she made her grand announcement at dinner, at a restaurant, with her parents, her sister, even candles, I smiled. I reached into my coat pocket, and I put it on the table. Her face went pale. But we're not there yet. Let me take you back. To the moment I stopped being a husband, and became something else entirely. The night she floated the idea of trying for a baby, I didn't argue. I didn't even flinch. I nodded, told her we could talk more tomorrow, then went back to watching the game like nothing happened. That's the thing about silence. It makes people underestimate you. But the truth? I was already 12 steps ahead. That week, I ordered a second phone. Untraceable. Not for calls, just data. Photos. Notes. Screenshots. I wasn't planning to catch her in the act. I was planning to build a case. Because something told me this wasn't just about betrayal. This was strategy on her part, manipulation at the biological level. If she was already pregnant, and I was pretty damn sure she was, she'd try to make it stick. Legally, financially, permanently. Tie me to a child, even if it wasn't mine. I wasn't going to stop her. I was going to watch her do it. And I was going to make sure I had everything I needed to burn it all down when the time came. I started small. Installed a keylogger on her laptop while she was in the shower. Nothing fancy, off the shelf, encrypted, undetectable. Synced it to my burner phone. From that point on, every email she wrote, every site she visited, every message she typed, I saw it. Real time. First 2 days? Nothing much. Pinterest boards, baby names, ovulation tracking apps. It was almost insulting how textbook it all was. By day 5, things got more interesting. An email draft she never sent, addressed to someone named Z. No message body, just the subject line, "We need to talk. He suspects." She never sent it. She deleted it. But she forgot about the logger. I started cross-referencing everything. She wasn't dumb. The other guy, Z, whoever he was nowhere in her contacts, not in her texts, not on her social media. Clean digital trail. But I knew better. People make mistakes, even careful ones. So I did something simple. I checked our home Wi-Fi history. Every device, every IP, every MAC address that had connected in the last 90 days. My laptop, her phone, my work phone, the TV. Nothing out of the ordinary, until I saw one that didn't belong. A device labeled pixel_7a_gray had connected 5 times in the past month. Always while I was working late. Always between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Not hers. Not mine. I copied the MAC address. Ran it through an OSINT tool. Got a hit. Registered to a guy named Zachary Pierce. Personal trainer. Worked 2 zip codes over. Public Instagram. Lots of shirtless gym selfies. No mention of a girlfriend. But buried in the comments, there she was. Emily. Always vague. Always subtle. But there. That was my guy. I didn't confront her. I added his name to the folder. Then I scheduled a physical with my doctor. Just routine, I told them. Nothing urgent. But when they asked if I wanted to run a paternity panel, for peace of mind, I said yes. And I smiled. Because the game had already started. She just didn't know she was playing against someone who doesn't lose. 10 days later, the test results arrived in a crisp, white envelope marked confidential. I told the clinic I wanted physical copies. No digital record, no phone call. Just the facts, on paper. I left the envelope unopened on my desk for almost 2 hours. Not because I was afraid. I just wanted to be ready. When I finally slid it open, there it was. The date of conception. Calculated based on her last cycle. It didn't match anything. Not even close. I hadn't touched her in 5 months. My gut had been right. She was pregnant. But the child wasn't mine. I didn't react. No yelling. No confrontation. No drinking or rage or second thoughts. I scanned the document, filed it in the Emily folder, encrypted the drive, and slid it back into the wall safe behind the closet panel. Everything after that became procedure. First, I called my lawyer. Not to file anything. Just to ask quiet questions about property division, about child support in non-biological paternity cases, about forensic tech audits. Hypotheticals, I said. He didn't push. He knew better. Then, I froze our joint credit cards. Claimed suspicious activity. Got replacements issued to me alone. Next, I diverted my paycheck to a new account at a bank she didn't know about. Took my name off the car she drove. Switched insurance to my name only. Pulled copies of our mortgage, the deed, tax filings, everything. All legal. All quiet. Every move I made had a reason. Every click was documented. She didn't notice. Because she thought she was winning. She started humming around the house again. Left baby name books out like trophies. Cooked more often. Smiled at me like nothing had happened. She thought her plan was working. That I was buying into the fantasy. That I wanted to believe the child was mine. That's the beauty of letting people underestimate you. Meanwhile, I kept digging. Zachary Pierce, the guy I'd flagged, posted a gym selfie with a timestamp that matched one of the days his device connected to our Wi-Fi. In the background, a familiar coffee mug. One I hadn't seen in our kitchen for weeks. Her mug. On his counter. That was enough. I printed screenshots. Dated them. Added them to the folder. Then I made a reservation at her favorite restaurant. Candlelight. Big enough for guests. I invited her parents. Her sister. Said I had something to celebrate. She lit up. I let her choose the day. She picked a Saturday. Perfect. Because on that Saturday night, she would sit there, surrounded by people who believed the lie. She would announce her surprise. And I would smile. Then I would reach into my coat, pull out the envelope, and place it gently on the table. Let her watch everything fall apart. On her own stage. She thought she was planning a reveal. She had no idea she was walking straight into mine. The night of the dinner, I dressed like it was a celebration. Gray blazer. White shirt. Clean shave. A man with nothing to hide. Emily wore a soft pink dress. Flowy, flattering. She touched her belly when she thought no one was looking. The theater of innocence. We arrived early. She insisted on the corner table near the fireplace. Said it felt more intimate. I let her lead. Let her soak in the anticipation. Her sister showed up next. Then her parents, smiling, loud, full of congratulations for an event no one had announced yet. I ordered wine. She declined. Her mother smiled knowingly. It was a setup. The whole thing. She wanted it to look like a genuine moment. A happy couple, breaking big news to loved ones. I played along. Small talk filled the first half hour. Vacations. Work. Her dad asked if I'd finally changed my mind about kids. I smiled, said, "Funny you ask." He raised an eyebrow. Emily squeezed my knee under the table. Then, right on cue, she cleared her throat. Looked around. "I have some news," she said. Everyone leaned in. "I'm pregnant." Gasps. Cheers. Her mom teared up. Her dad stood to shake my hand. Her sister clapped. I didn't move. I let the moment swell, let her bask in it, just long enough for the trap to close. Then I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the envelope, the same one with the paternity test, the receipts, the screenshots, and the timeline. I placed it gently on the table. "Congratulations, honey," I said. Calm. Level. She froze. "What's that?" her father asked. Emily didn't answer. I looked at him. "Proof," I said. Then I slid the envelope toward her. Her hands didn't move. She just stared. "You wanted a moment," I said. "So I brought one." Her face turned white. The blood drained from her lips. Her mother looked from me to her, confused. Her dad picked up the envelope, started reading. No one spoke. Page after page, dates, names, records. The baby wasn't mine. The timing was off. The receipts were clear. The IP address logs. The prenatal vitamins. The fitness trainer. And at the bottom, confirmation from the lab. The baby she just proudly announced to her family? Proven to have been conceived during a time when we hadn't even shared a bed. Her dad slowly set the papers down. No one cheered anymore. The waitress arrived with champagne. Paused. Felt the tension. Backed away. Emily didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just sat there in silence, realizing everything she'd built, the lie, the illusion, was collapsing. Not with a fight. Not with a scream. Just with a man calmly putting the truth on the table and saying nothing more. That's the thing about silence. When used right, it cuts deeper than any scream ever could. We left the restaurant in silence. No goodbyes. No hugs. Just stiff shoulders and unanswered questions. Her father had read every word of the report before standing up. He didn't speak to her. Didn't look at her. He just placed the envelope back on the table and walked out. Her mother, still trying to make sense of it all, followed a few steps behind. Her sister whispered something. Soft, probably sympathetic, but even she kept her distance. Emily didn't cry. Not in the car. Not when we got home. She sat on the couch like a statue, still dressed for celebration, her hands resting flat on her knees. I didn't ask questions. I didn't offer comfort. I just walked into the bedroom, pulled out a manila envelope from my drawer, and placed it on the kitchen counter. Divorce papers. Unserved and signed, but dated. 3 weeks ago. I had already been prepared. I poured myself a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table, watching her across the room. She finally looked up. Her mouth opened slightly, but I cut her off with a simple shake of my head. This wasn't a discussion. It was notification. The next morning, she was gone. No note. No suitcase. Just her keys missing from the hook and her side of the closet empty. I didn't call her. Didn't chase her. I just called my lawyer and said 2 words. It's time. Within the week, everything was in motion. The accounts were already split. The house mine. I had the deed, the mortgage, all proof that her name had never been added to the title. Legally, she had no claim. Her car? Still in my name. I revoked her access. Insurance? Terminated. Cell phone plan? Canceled. I handled it all in one afternoon. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. She made choices. Now I made mine. Then came the fallout. Quiet, but fast. Her father called. Not for apologies. For confirmation. He wanted to know how long I'd known. I told him just enough to settle his suspicions. He didn't defend her. He didn't try to repair things. He just thanked me for the honesty and said he was sorry. Her sister reached out, too. She'd always suspected something was off. She said I didn't deserve it. Said Emily had always had a secret side. I didn't respond, because none of it mattered anymore. This wasn't about closure or reconciliation. It was about boundaries, and mine had finally been drawn with ink. Emily texted 3 days later. One line, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. That night, I changed the locks. She thought exposure was the end game. She was wrong. That was just phase 1. Because revenge isn't about shouting. It's about rebuilding, brick by brick, with your back turned to the wreckage you left behind. The thing people don't understand about betrayal is that it's not the act itself that breaks you. It's the disrespect, the assumption that you're too blind, too soft, too weak to ever see it coming. But I had seen it coming, and I'd prepared. What Emily didn't know was that I'd made backup copies of everything. 2 encrypted drives. One locked in my safe, one mailed to my brother in Texas with a sealed letter. Open only if anything happens to me. Paranoia? Maybe. But after seeing how far she was willing to go, I wasn't taking chances. 2 weeks after the dinner, she tried again. Another text. I think we should talk. Please. I didn't reply. Instead, I started reaching out to people, quietly. People we'd both known. Mutual friends. Colleagues. Her boss. I never badmouthed her. I didn't need to. I just asked questions. Like whether their HR department had policies on inter-office relationships. Whether their company health plan covered prenatal visits. Whether a certain gym nearby offered couples memberships under fake names. I wasn't trying to ruin her. I was just laying groundwork. One of those conversations led me to something else. A guy named Jason, co-worker of hers. Friendly type. Used to come around for barbecues. He hadn't been by in almost a year. Turns out, he dated Emily before we ever got married. Briefly. She always said it was casual. Nothing serious. But apparently, she'd reached out to him a month before the dinner. Told him she was scared. Said I was acting controlling, unstable, cold. Laying the foundation. In case I snapped. She was building her defense before the crime. I added that to the folder, too. Then, I did something small, but loud in its implications. I posted a single photo on social media. Just me. On the back deck. Coffee in hand. The caption read, "Peace is expensive, but worth every penny." It was the first thing I'd posted in over a year. Within hours, people noticed. The comments were vague, but supportive. "Good to see you smiling, man. Glad you're okay. Whatever you're dealing with, you've got this." Then came the private messages. One, in particular, stood out. A woman named Rachel. Old friend from college. Divorced. No drama. She'd always been the kind of person who asked how you were, and actually waited for the answer. We grabbed coffee. It wasn't a date. Not yet. But it was something better. It was a reminder that not everyone is playing a game. Some people are just living their lives with honesty. And after months of manipulation and lies, that felt revolutionary. Emily, meanwhile, went quiet again. No calls. No texts. But I knew silence wasn't surrender. It was calculation. She wasn't done. And neither was I. Because what she'd underestimated most was what happens when a quiet man stops holding back. 3 weeks passed with no contact. Then, one morning, I got an email. Not a text. Not a call. An actual email from Emily's attorney. Polite, professional, manipulative. They claimed she wanted to resolve things amicably. Said she believed we had irreconcilable differences and that she hoped to avoid court for everyone's sake. Translation? She realized she was cornered and wanted to settle before more damage was done. But what caught my attention wasn't the legal tone. It was the line buried near the end. Emily reserves the right to seek support should paternity be disputed without proof. There it was. She was still hoping I'd fold. That I'd be afraid of the optics. That I'd settle to avoid a public scene. She had no idea what I'd already prepared. I waited 2 days, then responded. I attached the lab-certified paternity test. The timeline. The Wi-Fi logs. The photographs. Every document with date stamps, IPs, metadata. No emotion. No accusations. Just data. Then I sent a separate copy directly to Emily. Subject line. Your version versus reality. No body text. 5 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. She called again. And again. Then came the text. Can we meet? Please. I let her sit in the silence she'd once weaponized. That weekend, I received another email. This time from someone unexpected. Zachary Pierce. He didn't apologize. He didn't defend her. He said he hadn't known she was married. That she'd told him we were separated. That the baby was his, and she'd already promised he could be in the child's life. He wanted to make things right. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Then archived it. I wasn't interested in fighting with Zach. My focus was on finishing this clean. Emily tried one last move. She posted a photo. Black and white. Herself in profile. Hand on her stomach. Caption, not all stories need to be explained. Some speak for themselves. The comments flooded in. Sympathy. Praise. Encouragement. People assumed I was the villain. That I'd left a pregnant woman. that I'd broken her heart. I let them think that for 2 days. Then I posted one thing. A scanned copy of the paternity test. No names. No explanations. Just a title at the top. Facts speak louder. And the date. Conception occurred 5 months after last intimacy with spouse. I turned off comments. I didn't need applause. She deleted her post an hour later. She'd lost control of the narrative. And for someone like her, that was the real punishment. Because the worst thing you can do to a manipulator is leave them with no audience. After the public unraveling, Emily disappeared from everything. Social media gone. Mutual friends stopped mentioning her. Her job quietly posted an opening for her position 2 weeks later. Whether she left on her own or was asked to, I never found out. I didn't care. I wasn't following her moves anymore. I was finalizing mine. The divorce moved fast after that. Her attorney didn't fight. They didn't ask for alimony. Didn't challenge asset division. I offered her exactly what the law required, and not a cent more. She accepted. There was no courtroom scene. No dramatic face-off. Just a conference room with a notary, a few signatures, and the quiet closing of a chapter one hadn't wanted, but had come to embrace. When she signed the final page, she looked up at me for the first time in weeks. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. But I could see the recognition in her eyes. She'd misread everything. The silence she thought meant weakness had always been control. The calm she thought meant passivity had always been planning. And the man she thought she could trap had just walked away unscarred. That night, I packed the last of her things into a storage bin. No anger, just efficiency. I kept one item, a framed photo from our second anniversary. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder. Not all traps are loud. Some are dressed as love. Some whisper while they cut. The next morning, I donated everything else she left behind. Furniture, clothes, books, even her favorite kitchen mixer. I didn't sell it. I didn't burn it. I gave it away. That was the win. Not in destruction, but in release. I booked a weekend cabin in Telluride. Brought a notebook. No plans. No phone. Just snow outside and firewood stacked high. I started writing. Not about her. About the future. New projects. Business ideas. A list of things I'd stop doing to make room for her chaos. I realized how much space one person can occupy, not just in a house, but in a life. Emily had been loud in subtle ways. Always the center of attention. Always the victim when things got hard. Always 2 steps ahead, until she wasn't. Because she never planned for what happens when quiet men get serious. She planned for an argument. She expected a mess. She never prepared for precision. Now, all that remained of her was a digital folder on a locked drive and a single file in my attorney's cabinet. Nothing more. No child. No home. No marriage. Just the consequence of choices, delivered without rage, without begging. Only quiet execution. After the ink dried on the divorce, something strange happened. Silence. Real silence. Not the heavy, toxic kind that used to live between us. Not the kind filled with questions and doubts. This was different. This silence was clean. Final. It didn't ache. It didn't echo. It breathed. That's when I realized I wasn't rebuilding. I was redesigning. People kept asking if I was okay. If I was going to be all right. I nodded. Smiled. Said the usual things. But inside, I wasn't recovering from anything. I was waking up. I cleared out the garage. Donated the dining table we never used. Sold the guest bed she'd insisted we needed for when family visits. Though it was mostly used by her excuses. I repainted the walls. Cool tones. Minimalism. No more gallery walls of curated happiness. I bought a workbench. Started fixing things with my hands. Nothing complex. Just enough to remind myself what building looks like when it's honest. I started running again. 5 miles every morning. No headphones. Just breath and gravel and rhythm. I didn't talk about her. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't need to. Emily wasn't the point anymore. She was the catalyst, not the conclusion. One afternoon, I ran into Rachel again, the woman I'd had coffee with months earlier. We talked like people who'd known each other in another life. Nothing forced. No expectations. We started walking together in the evenings. Not dating. Just moving forward in parallel. She didn't ask about the past. And I didn't offer it. Instead, we talked about ideas. Books. Places we wanted to visit. It felt real in a way that didn't ask for proof. Then, one evening, we sat in the quiet of my back porch. She looked around and said, "It's peaceful here. You built this yourself, didn't you?" And I realized something. She wasn't talking about the house. She was talking about me. I nodded. Yes, I had. Brick by brick. Step by step. In silence. In clarity. In discipline. No spectacle. No revenge fantasy. Just a man who chose to rise instead of react. There's power in being underestimated. In letting people think you're too quiet to act, too composed to strike. Emily never understood that. But now, standing in the life I'd rebuilt alone, I did. Not all fires burn loud. Some burn cold, controlled, targeted. And when they're done, what's left is stronger than before. A year passed, 12 months since the dinner, since the envelope, since everything cracked open in front of her family and fell quiet behind mine. Emily never tried to come back. Not really. She sent one more message 6 months ago. Just 5 words. "I never meant to hurt you." I didn't reply, because by then, I'd stopped speaking her language. Regret, manipulation, control. I'd outgrown it all. The house looked different now. Not just physically, emotionally. It had space. It breathed. Where her energy once cluttered everything, now there was clarity. No forced laughter, no walking on eggshells. Just air and wood and silence. The old version of me would have burned everything down to make a point. The man I became? He just locked the doors and built something better inside. I started mentoring young vets at a local community center. Not to talk about war, but to talk about what comes after. How to rebuild without bitterness. How to process betrayal without becoming a cynic. One of them, Matt, 26, asked me why I wasn't angry anymore. I told him the truth. Because anger is loud. And I've learned that silence gets more done. He didn't understand at first. Then I showed him my folder. Not Emily's. A new one. One labeled today. Inside, business plans, contracts, a blueprint for a logistics startup I'd launched 6 months earlier. It was quiet, profitable mine. No one else's signature. No shared passwords. No hidden agendas. Matt flipped through the pages, nodded slowly, then said something I won't forget. "You didn't move on. You moved up." Exactly. I didn't survive the fire. I used the ashes to build something fireproof. Rachel and I still talk. Sometimes more than that. But there's no pressure. No urgency. We're both rebuilding in our own ways. There's strength in parallel paths. Last week, I received a letter from Emily's father. Handwritten. No return address. He said he'd seen the truth too late. Said he wished he'd asked more questions. That I hadn't deserved what happened, and that no matter where his daughter ended up, he hoped I found peace. I did. It wasn't revenge that gave me peace. It was discipline, distance, design, the kind of power that doesn't come from shouting, but from not needing to. That night, I walked through my house, turned off the lights one by one, poured a glass of scotch, and sat outside. No noise, no drama, no ghosts, just the hum of crickets and a man who'd walked through hell. Quietly, deliberately, completely, and came out the other side untouchable. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.